this isn't even America anymore. There's no rule of law. There's no constitution. The executive branch, the White House, is just doing unilaterally anything that it wants, rubbing it in everyone's faces. There's no redress. There's no recourse. The legislative branch is completely sidelined, marginalized, useless. They will not do anything to stop any of this. It seems to us that, wow, maybe the people in the legislative branch, maybe they're on board with all of this. Maybe they're complicit in all of this, that they have no interest in stopping this steamrolling and this destruction of the constitutional order and the rule of law and also the enabling bureaucracy. Well, of course that's the case, because the people in the legislative branch, they are members of the oligarchy, which has overthrown the constitutional republic, and they are becoming enriched and empowered themselves, specifically because there is no rule of law, and because that then allows them to just loot the system, and to behave and do all manner of horrific and vile things, knowing that there will never be any action taken against them. There will be no law enforcement because there is no rule of law. They are members of the oligarchy. They operate above the law. Barack Obama was not and is not eligible to be the President of the United States. This is an objective fact. It is an objective fact. Barack Obama, not eligible to be President of the United States according to Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution of the United States. He is not a natural-born citizen. Open admission. In fact, it was one of his selling points that he was the child of a Kenyan national, not a natural-born citizen. He is not the child of two citizen parents by his own admission. And then there's all kinds of stuff beyond that. The fact that he was adopted by an Indonesian means that he became an Indonesian national by definition of the rule of law. And he has never released any of his college transcripts, presumably because he attended college as a foreign student. Whether or not Barack Obama is the child of two American citizen parents is on the list of that hierarchy a relatively minor thing relative to destruction of the economy. You know, they openly admit that the national debt is now over $18 trillion. It was 10 and change when he came into office. The Reformation and the enablement and the arming of the Islamic Caliphate, all of that, the dissolving of the Mexican border, the stacking of the electorate, which was a goal that was articulated decades and decades ago by this cadre of people, this hive that was centered out of Columbia University. These are macro dynamics. Whether or not Barack Obama's parents are both U.S. citizens is admittedly on the hierarchy a less important point. However, it is still utterly, utterly crucial, because if you refuse to enforce the rule of law on these relatively minor issues, such as presidential eligibility, if you refuse to enforce the rule of law, the consequences of that are massive and cascading, because once it goes, it spreads out into everything, and it spreads out into anarchy, which then, what anarchy is no enforcement of the rule of law. The biggest thug wins. And again, this is something that has been said openly by these people, these members of this Washington, D.C. oligarchical, tyrannical regime, is that they understand, quote unquote, and they model themselves after Mao in China. And Mao said, all political power comes from the barrel of a gun. These people have stated this openly, okay? That means you have no rule of law, you have anarchy, and the biggest thug wins. And these people are conscienceless, psychopathic thugs. And the only thing that will keep those people in check and will keep them from destroying your country and destroying your civilization, the thread that maintains civilization, that civilization is hanging from, is the rule of law. That is now gone. How can you possibly expect, with no rule of law, how can you possibly expect any economic paradigm to persist, to thrive, to not just utterly collapse in upon itself? Because everything in an economy, at the end of the day, is based one way or another on trust between individuals and the ability to have some sort of legal redress when one person deals dishonestly with another person. In this environment, there's no equal protection. There's no one to turn to. The only thing that matters is who you are and who you know. You can commit crimes, flagrant, enormous crimes, out in the open. And as long as you are in tight or a member of this oligarchy, you can literally get away with murder.